I want to be compassionate, but I'm so mad.
You sound like my grandma.
Hi everybody, welcome back. So today we have author of Eat with Intention and founder of Appreciate, Cassandra Bodzak.
Thank you guys for having me.
We're so excited you're here.
I'm so excited to be here.
Yay. So we talk a lot about being compassionate on this show, and a lot of you guys have said in the comments that you want to be compassionate towards people who are on a vegan journey, but you have a hard time doing that because you feel very angry for the animals and things like that. So we brought an expert on board to talk about that. So is this something that you are familiar with, like maybe in your own life or other people have talked to you about?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of women that are, whether it's veganism or wellness,
Right.
They're on a spiritual journey, they're kind of having these ahas and thinking about these great things that they're incorporating in their lives, and they're super passionate about sharing it with everyone. And so one of the things I think can get in that way is when we have that aha, the light bulb goes off for us, and then we're surrounded by other people that just aren't there yet. If they haven't had their moment. And so I think it can be somewhat natural to be frustrated. And one of the things that I really see, because I love the vegan community, and I'm just so impressed with you guys that you saw this and were like, I want to be compassionate, but I'm really angry, because I think the first step to changing it is to being aware of it, right? So very cool. I was ecstatic when the ladies told me that this was a topic, because I do think it's something that very sadly can sometimes give veganism a bad PR campaign, because here we are spreading compassion and talking about, a culture of kindness, and we forget sometimes to be compassionate and kind to fellow humans, right? Which are really important, especially, like I said, in my work, oftentimes, you get so passionate about the thing that you want to tell everybody about, whether it's meditation, whether it's veganism, whether it's your new exercise routine, and you forget that sometimes then you make other people wrong by not,
That's a good point.
And the truth is that if you think about yourself, like even like 3 months before you had your own moment, right? You would have a judgment for yourself in that instance too.
Totally. I was thinking about that earlier. Yeah. Like
Right?
I was thinking back to like before I had the light bulb switch. I thought vegans were so weird and I thought it was so restrictive, and I remember saying things to vegans or vegetarians that I hear now, and I'm like, what do you mean? Like, oh, I could never give up cheese. I used to say that all the time.
Yeah. And so I think remembering that version of you before you made the shift too helps you be more compassionate and make you realize that, wow, like I didn't know until I knew. And then once I knew, maybe it's hard to forget about it now. Maybe it's hard to be as lenient with it now. But realizing that everybody is on their own individual journey. Right. And so maybe right now you've got this figured out, but I guarantee all of us have at least one area of our life that we haven't gotten completely figured out, right? Yeah. And so like maybe you haven't figured out your financial situation yet, right? And how would you feel if someone that had figured out their financial situation and had that all together was angry at you for not figuring it out?
Totally.
That wouldn't facilitate you learning more about it. Like instead you kind of just become closed off to it. You feel attacked and judged. So I think coming from that place of compassion and allowing your passion for veganism and your passion for kindness and compassion to actually fuel you and ground you in that through those angry moments can be a really powerful antidote. When you feel it come up, know that it's coming up and it's part of a judgment. Right? And that's the ugly truth of it. It's a judgment on that other person, that there's something they're inherently wrong because they're not in that space yet, right? And then seeing if you can bring some compassion and understanding to that, because there was a time in your life, most likely, unless you were raised by vegan parents, right? that was before you knew this too. Right? And there was a learning curve perhaps for you, and maybe you weren't always perfect either. And if you think about in those moments, whether it was around veganism or any other subject of your life, the people that showed you compassion and kindness were the people that helped you facilitate that process in yourself. Right?
I think a lot of people feel that anger is a way of feeling strong, because I think a lot of times it masks this feeling of helplessness, and especially when you're dealing with veganism and it has to do with helping the animals or, you know, helping the environment, you feel so strongly about it. And especially when people know, I hear this all the time in the comments, when people know, you know, the benefits of veganism and they still choose not to, or they were vegan and then they decide not to be vegan anymore, that can make people really angry, and that anger can make them feel like they're being proactive about something they feel helpless about. And I think being aware of that and just realizing that that anger actually is doing, as you were mentioning, like, is not helping the cause. It's actually making it worse.
Yeah, the anger is actually you giving your power away in that instance,
but
right?
It feels powerful in the moment.
You
'cause you feel like you're fighting against it, but that's not.
Yeah, but in reality, it's like one of my favorite sayings is be the lighthouse, right? The most powerful way to be a leader in anything is to be the lighthouse. What does the lighthouse do? It shines bright, allows the ships to come to shore. The lighthouse isn't going out there and like beating up the ships for not figuring out how to come to shore, right? And because the lighthouse just shines bright, and I think that is, if you think about being in your own power, being in your power is living your truth, living your example.
We got a comment the other day, and I was thinking about it, and it said, why would you not try to spread veganism if we don't talk about it or we don't correct people that it's never going to spread? But it's true, you have to shed light on things and be like something people want to aspire to be, rather than like you can correct and help and show your veganism without being angry and confrontational.
And I think, again, it goes back to that too. Like, think about any example of something in your life when someone tried to like force something down your throat, or someone was angry at you for not, like, I mean, I love just using like other examples, because if you think of it like with exercise, right? If like your girlfriend's really into yoga and you're just like, I'm not feeling yoga, like I kind of like my like kickboxing,
and then
or
she
whatever,
gets mad at you for it,
Yeah.
and you're like, it's just not my thing.
Yeah, right? And they're like, don't you understand yoga is so good? Don't you understand the meaning of enlightenment? Don't you understand we all need to do that? Right? Then all of a sudden you're like, I don't even know if I want to do yoga.
Yeah,
right
you're
now.
like, I'm so turned off by this.
You're like, that's the kind of person who does yoga? No thanks. Well, that's how I was with vegans. I was like, those are the vegans. I'm not going to be one of them.
Yeah.
And I really didn't like vegans because they were angry.
Yeah.
But
to
it
me.
also, I think it makes people feel like when you have gone out of your way and you've explained to them why you're vegan, and they still don't understand, it's almost, I think, sometimes a defense thing, because people feel like, oh, they don't trust me or my opinion or my experience enough to make that change in their life, or at least to try it. And it feels almost like a personal attack.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for people who are feeling angry for whatever reason, something that they can do to replace the anger, or steps that they can take to work on it?
Behavioral compensation they can do.
Yeah. So the first thing that I would do is, when you're in that moment, when that person is saying something and you're feeling anger up inside of you coming, is to take a few deep breaths and remind yourself that we're all doing the best we can, right? And trying to just see that person as like a little baby. Like,
talk about that.
really, right? Like seeing that person like a little baby that's just like literally trying to do the best we can, because that's the truth. All of us are only trying to do the best we can and trying to be happy and trying to get by every day in our own way, and realizing that you actually have no idea like all of the intricacies of what's going on in that person's life 100%. Right now. And if you can just have compassion for them on a human to human level, then you can realize that it's not about you. And it's not even about veganism, right? It's them being on their own journey and where they're at and what they're doing. And so just having that moment when the anger wells up, when you want to leave a nasty comment, when you want to say something, when you want to like get a little feisty with someone, and just realizing
there's a human behind that.
There's a human
There's
there.
a precious little soul.
Yeah, it's true. There's a precious little soul. And I think, you know, if it's something where like it's a friend or it's someone like in your life that you can have a conversation with, then having a loving conversation about it and sharing from a place of, this is like, share your successes, share why it's made such a difference to you, right? But allow it to be a safe space. I think we've all chatted about this, where we were saying, I'd rather see someone start eating vegan 2 days a week, 3 days a week, right? And start moving to that. And if they feel like you can be a loving support system for them to do it in their own time and their own increments, then how much more likely are they to, make the shift and gain the momentum? I think everybody learns differently. Everybody kind of has their own approach. Some people like to do things, cold turkey and do it right away. And other people need to figure it out. And so if you can have a loving, compassionate conversation with someone and just see where they're at, and also be in that space to accept if they're like, hey, right now I can't imagine my life without cheese, right? To perhaps maybe, again, go back to yourself and be like, can I remember a time where I couldn't think about my life without cheese? And be that friend there, right? And so then the second thing that I think is really important, if you're finding the anger is coming up for you, is actually use it to fuel you to be your own ambassador. To be the living example.
I love that.
Right? Where if this is something, then allow yourself to be the example of what veganism means to you, right? To really live that. One of the things I have some of my clients do is pretend that they're on a reality TV show where someone's watching them all the time, right? And if you're like, would people be inspired by your life?
Yeah.
Right?
That's cool.
And so when you feel like you're doing that and you're actually living the message and you're actually sharing it in that way, then you feel powerful and you're actually taking your power back, because we are so much more powerful when we're radiating and we're magnetizing and we're just being in the truth of who we are than when we are kind of grabbing or trying to control things outside of us.
Yeah.
And I think you will find, I'm sure you guys probably have had conversations where, there are people in your life who just started noticing the shift in you and then got curious and asked you.
Yeah.
And isn't that a much better conversation to have?
Yeah.
Than being like, I'm vegan, and just bringing it up upon yourself and attacking everyone.
Yeah.
Allowing people into your house, into
Yeah.
your space.
And I was gonna ask you, because I feel like what we're talking about a lot is us feeling angry as vegans and wanting to talk, wanting to push it on other people or whatever. But also, especially with the holidays being around, our Facebook group has a ton of people commenting saying my dad or my uncle has made really rude comments to me, or they attacked me at the table, or they made really passive aggressive remarks. So when somebody's coming at you, I know for me it's hard for me to not respond.
Go into fight.
Yeah, I go into fight mode. And what recommendations do you have for somebody if they feel like they're being attacked and they didn't initiate it?
So I read the spiritual book called The Course in Miracles, and there's one of the lessons is, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And so it kind of says, by you defending, you affirm the attack.
Exactly.
Right?
Oh, that's
and
interesting.
so it's an interesting tactic, and it does not mean that you allow yourself to be walked over. But what it does mean is that, again, you hold it down. You hold down the space for compassion and kindness, right? And trust me, I have family like that too, so I get it.
Yeah.
But being in that space of being okay, well, I get why it's not for you, but, I'm just this works for me and I'm really liking it.
Yeah.
And not going to bat with them. And what I found, it's if you don't go to bat with people like that, if you just stand true in your truth and you
don't
make
give them
whatever,
ammo.
bring your quinoa, do whatever you gotta do, right? Bring your own quinoa, make sure you have your own food, and then just live, then people, again, you become an attractor, right? Instead of initiating in their own dialogue,
Yeah.
right?
Something I say all the time for people who come across attacking me a little bit, I always just tell them, hey, this is just a way I found that I can decrease suffering in a little way, and it's very simple to me, and I'm just doing my own thing. And they're just oh, okay.
And it totally shifts them.
Yeah.
It shifts them when
It's
you
back to
respond
my
from that place.
power, not them attacking me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now more than likely when you give a response like that, they're gonna feel oh wow, I'm an idiot. I'm an idiot for being the mean person, and she's
And
just
they'll recognize that they were being defensive
Yeah.
by attacking in that way.
Yeah.
A lot
Yeah.
of for me, my activism a lot is very non-confrontational, because I feel like veganism is something that I don't have to defend. I feel very sound, and I have done so much research, and I know it's right for me, so it's just not something I feel like I have to fight about.
Which is a great point.
Yeah.
Because I think if you're coming up against stuff like that, I think it is good for you to take that internal inventory and be like, is there something unsettled in myself that I'm not in that place of peace, that I'm not like that secure with it? If you think about it, if it's like a choice, it's a lifestyle choice, right? I actually have some food allergies, which led me to my veganism. And so for me, it's like, oh no, like I'm very clear on I don't want to have hives and have my throat close up. Like I'm very clear on that. It's not like open for discussion. And when you can just settle in that, then it's a different energy that you're putting out. And it doesn't it's not movable.
It's not dependent upon anyone else's opinion.
It's not dependent. And one of the other things that you brought up with your activism and talking about that is that anger is energy, right? It's energy that wants to come out. It's energy that wants to move. So if you're finding yourself being angry, a better way to utilize that energy instead of leaving nasty comments on things or saying mean things to people would be like, okay, how can I be more active towards the thing that I actually want to help? Maybe I can volunteer at like a local farm. Maybe I can volunteer at a food bank that serves vegan food. Maybe I can do like something in my community to help this and create something. Maybe I can create a vegan meetup group in my community.
Foster some animals.
Like get active with it. That was one of the things that recently came up with my audience around some of the political stuff that happened. I had a lot of people that were really, really angry about what's going on politically.
Of course.
And that was the number one thing I said. Just like, you use your anger to fight the fight that you want to push forth. And so instead of combating like individual people, why don't you put that energy towards creating something? Start your own vegan YouTube channel. Start writing a vegan book, volunteer in those places and actually get active, because now you're allowing that energy to move from inside of you to something that you actually want to put your energy towards. And putting your energy to something positive is so much more powerful than just trying to bash negatively.
Yeah.
I love that.
We have so much more power than we give ourselves credit for. Each one of you do. And I see it in the Facebook group all the time. People starting their own vegan groups in college, people bringing vegan food to a potluck without telling people it's vegan. Like, it's amazing. You guys are incredible activists by being yourself.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like this entire conversation I've just been shaking my head
Yeah,
a lot
same.
because I could not agree more. And Cassandra is someone who on Instagram, she always seems to post the thing that I need to hear in that moment. I can't tell you how many times I've read, or like on your Instagram story, there's just something where I'm like, yes, amen, this is so true, because she really is tuned into that kind of stuff. So make sure you check out her Instagram. We'll put her Instagram, her YouTube, her incredible cookbook. We'll put all of that in the description box below. I just want to say thank you so much for being here.
Thank you guys for having me, and I hope that was helpful. If you have more questions, I'll patrol the comment section as well, and I'm happy to give you guys more tips.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Make sure you check out our Facebook group that's linked in the description box, and we will see you back on Monday. Bye, guys.
Bye.